Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to today's reading. So, this one is going to be single pile reading, just looking at why all the distance is there. Why do you see this person come in and then shut down? Essentially shut down. And in some cases, it is completely shutting down. So, what we've noticed is a pattern of after the holidays, after things kind of have quieted down from that and started moving back toward the life that you would start having in January. Parties stop happening and things like that. This has been a little bit of a dulling of the energy or a retraction, or in some cases, out and out, just complete disappearance and ghosting. So, we're going to look to see why that happens, why it's happening in this case in particular. So, we'll look at the energy of the situation as well as kind of what's happening in there that causes this to occur. So, it'll be a general reading for this collective, and all these readings are very much connected. So if you should happen to see something here that helps you, resonates with you, then you may want to take a look at some of the other readings, and you may even want to subscribe. Okay, so to take a look, let's start with, we're going to look at kind of the big picture, but we're especially going to look at what's happening in this right now energy. So let's look at that right now energy. This is going to be the energy that's happening between the two of you. What's driving, kind of some of what you're seeing. So we've got suspension. This is like the Hanged Man. It is something that hasn't resolved yet. New perspective but it's not a new perspective that's here. It's one that's kind of still churning, still kind of spinning, not quite done yet. Then we've also got the Death card here. So something that is changing. It's changing, and here's the thing, the changes are impacting your situation. I don't know if it's exactly you or your person or both of you or kind of the environment around you. There are changes that are impacting your situation, and some of that impact is not yet fully seen. Some of it's not yet fully known. Okay, then we have the Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups in the reverse like this talks about not necessarily knowing what you've got, or not necessarily not knowing what you've got, but not necessarily knowing what to do with what you've got when you run across it. So this is that energy of meeting a situation and not recognizing the significance of it, not bringing the right approach to it. It could be running into something that seems like it's too good to be true and, not knowing how to respond to it. That's a very real possibility. Here we have the Eight of Cups. We have this being a cycle that repeats. So this is a cycle that repeats where you're seeing the situation of not quite knowing what to do with the situation when you run across it. The change that brings about an adjustment in the situation, but where that adjustment is not super clear yet. All of the implications of that are not clear. This is something that has happened before. Looks like it's something that's likely to happen again. But what's really tough about it is the impact that it has on you. Okay, so it creates pain. It creates memories. I don't see the Six of Cups, but I kind of feel the Six of Cups. It's nostalgia, but not the pleasant type of nostalgia. So this is the kind of thing that just, it feels like depression, but with the feeling included, because sometimes depression feels like not feeling anything. This is with the unpleasant feelings. This is very, it disallows partnership, and I feel like this is a significant thing happening on your person's side. But what's extra significant is kind of what's coming behind it with the Page of Cups and the Nine of Wands. With the Two of Cups in the reverse, though, this is an awful lot of, having a hard time partnering up, having a hard time coming together, and there's a lot of residual pain that comes along with this. And so it makes your person want to draw away, but it also You are the answer to that pain. So that's part of the reason that they would want to come back to you, have communication, in some cases, even an apologetic communication, but it still seems like they might be very reserved about it, or they might be very defensive. There's a sense of defensive nature in this. So today's energy has that feeling of a sugar crash. That's what it reminds me of. I think is a sugar crash. It has this feeling of something having gone up and now having come down. And the way that it doesn't come down like all at once. It looks like it's kind of coming down and creating some frustration along the way. In some cases, it's got that depression sort of feel to it. In other cases, well, there's a depression sort of feel to it, but it's got a little bit of an element of a lot of activity and a lot of emotion within that depression, as well as the kind that has less of it. So emotional self-mastery, any emotional self-mastery that you were maybe feeling, feels like maybe it's not feeling so masterful at this time. And this is for both of you. There's a lot of a desire for that unconditional love, and a lot of that feeling like they've made mistakes so big that they won't be able to get to those. And then part of them realizes that that is it's kind of a, something to hide behind. And they recognize that because of what they've experienced with regard to the healing that's already taken place within them. So they're not able to look at this and just say, I feel terrible about this. I want to experience the love and the safety, but I've just got to stay away, and that's that. That may be the way that they were at one time. At this point, though, there is a recognition within them that there's a cycle here, or at the very least, that they play a role in this situation. They see it when they see the need to communicate, but to do so with this great need to also be defensive. And so I feel like that's part of what kind of does it for them. That's how they start to realize that this is not necessarily, this is not a situation that is purely happening to them. It's one that they have taken an active role in creating, but it's not healthy, and it has a bit of a toxic element to it. So even if it's only temporary, they see the toxic nature of this behavior. Um, and that's part of, so it's not necessarily saying here's why the behavior is here, but it's saying that in today's energy, in this current energy, so it may span beyond today, there's a little bit of a depression, there's a little bit of a sadness, but there's a lot of a feeling that they are able to see it. They're able to see kind of what the cycle is. So now let's get more into kind of what is driving that cycle. Why is it that we see them shutting down, running away? What is causing this to happen? And, we see the current situation, that they're somewhat aware of it. This is consistent with what we've seen with some of the recent readings as well. Okay, so with the Knight of Pentacles, there's a feeling of kind of a consistent forward movement, consistent. This is usually a good thing, but this feels ominous in this situation. And it feels a little bit ominous because it's like a situation that they know is going to move forward regardless. But they don't ever really think about, like, they know it's going to move forward, but they do a lot of compartmentalizing what they're going to do in the future and what's going to happen in the future. And they're also, like, the light is dawning on them gradually, that they see every so often they kind of look back and they see their behaviors, which we saw a little bit of that with the 5 of Cups. And there's some regret about that, and some realization of how they might have done things differently. So they're kind of aware of what's happening. I feel like there's a lot of shame. That 5 of Cups that plays out in this current energy seems like a consistent feeling in this energy. Honestly, it feels like a kind of a consistent feeling with them. They see the mistake that they've made, and that's part of what keeps them away or keeps them running away. We also have the Eight of Pentacles here in the reverse. Eight of Pentacles in the reverse is going to be a really interesting concept. The Eight of Pentacles in the reverse is the same feeling that we have over here. Um, with the lack of mastery, that feels like it pops up and is just sort of a mood that is not great, that's a depressive sort of mood. But this could be something that actually generates a pretty significant issue with the Five of Cups, because this is that's that shame that basically could cause them to make decisions that are more on the self-destructive side. And that, I think, is what we see here. So we're not necessarily asking what they're likely to do. We're asking what it is that we're seeing. And there may be a fairly heavy self-destructive element to this. And yet it just feels like it kind of draws them forward, draws them through it. There's not really a way that they can slow the process down. It has them wanting to come your direction. It has them making these sort of self-destructive behaviors as they move toward and as they move away, and in some cases, the way they move away. With the Four of Swords here, we see them healing and learning this, which kind of feels a lot like the same vibe that I'm getting off of this Five of Pentacles in the reverse. You know, they've learned quite a bit, and as they learn, they're able to see the pattern a little bit more clearly. So I'm not saying if you ask them about this pattern, they'd be able to articulate it perfectly and everything. I'm just mostly saying that um, it's got kind of, it's every time the cycle happens, it's not the same. It kind of changes a little bit every time. So we've got the Queen of Wands and the Hermit. The Queen of Wands in the reverse is giving me that feeling of in having to sit uncomfortably with a concept, like having to sit uncomfortably with themselves and with something that they want or something that they haven't quite figured out how they're going to address. With the Hermit in reverse, there's a kind of a different thing going on. So with the Hermit in reverse, there are feelings of, there's wisdom that they've gone off after. They've tried to address this and approach this in a couple of different ways. One of the ways that they've thought about approaching it is to just say, okay, what is it that I need to know? You know, not thinking that they were going to have to take any significant leaps of faith. But as they get closer every time, they recognize all of the things that we see in these readings, that they've made some decisions about their life um, that make them, you know, as they heal, they recognize that as well. They've made some decisions about their life that they're not exactly wanting to necessarily stay with at this point, that they are being born gradually forward regardless of how they feel about it. They cannot unsee what they're seeing. They're recognizing some things about their life and about their situation, about what they want, about what draws them closer, about inevitable change, and the fact that they're going to want something different going forward, from what they've, like we were talking about, what they've gone toward in the past is not what they want going forward. And they're sitting with this just really uncomfortable realization that they've made a mistake somewhere and they don't really know how to resolve it. So, with this Wheel of Fortune, though, the sense of change, that, you know, not just the sense of change marching forward, that's that ominous piece. It's the same card we see up here. That Knight of Pentacles energy is that ominous moving forward and like the marching forward of time, and that how that feels when it's less nostalgic and more alarming. There's a sense here of, okay, so with the Fool in the reverse, there is this feeling of not being able to jump into something that they know they need to be able to begin. They have let go of, like, they feel like they no longer possess the skill, or some sort of time has passed such that if they jump into something there, it's not going to turn out the way that they would hope for it to turn out. It's not going to be um, successful in some way. And so that's part of the thing that kind of keeps them from holding on a little bit more tightly. It's what keeps them feeling like as soon as they get in, they could get out just as quickly. Because it's like they're moving toward what it is that they want, but they're also recognizing that They feel some sense of lack. They feel some sense of lacking within themselves that even as they move toward this, they don't feel like they've properly prepared themselves for what's here. So again, they don't feel like there's going to be a success. They feel like they're going to fall on their face because they're being able to see things a little bit more clearly as time goes on. We see that with the Four of Swords. We see that here with the Five of Pentacles. And so the type of seeing things that they're being able to do is giving them kind of mixed with that depression feeling, is giving them kind of the wrong idea about what their success is and whether they're going to be successful. And so there's kind of they've almost got like a messing it up for themselves before they start. There's a self-destructive element to it. This judgment does not have anything to do with them passing judgment or not passing judgment on any significant um, like broader scale. It has everything to do with a perception within themselves that they're not going to be successful. And this is the thing that keeps them distant, or that they tend to be like this rubber band thing, where they get closer and then they go farther away. um, with the Strength card in the reverse, I feel like it reiterates a lot of what we just saw here. This is just generally a tendency to be kept down in that situation and to disappoint themselves. And the sense of that is, so two things. They feel like they have a tendency to disappoint themselves, so they're not going to get their hopes up. So, when you keep your expectations low and you don't have to worry about what happens, because it's not like it's going to go farther down than you thought. You already expected not to be successful. But now they find themselves presented with a decision, and it seems like you're looking at them eye to eye. And as they heal, as they get a little bit closer to that success, they start to realize, well, they're not necessarily prepared for that. They're not prepared to make the decision. They feel like they're entering this situation without the proper prerequisites in place, rightfully or wrongfully. They're not feeling prepared. And that's part of why they duck back out. So I'm curious to see a little bit more about that, and maybe even a little bit more of like what you can do to help with that situation. So I know we've talked a little bit about when they come to you, you could, your one of the recommendations is for you to receive them gently even when you're frustrated. It doesn't mean to be a doormat. It simply means to make sure that you're diplomatic, make sure you're not saying things you don't mean to be saying out of anger. Be gentle. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with them. Let gentleness be the energy that you're bringing forth in this situation, and that's going to resolve a lot of things. But what else can you do? I think those are what we're going to look at when we get into the extended. For now, let's look at the place where you need to be focusing as far as your own healing is concerned. So you've got a person who is being very distant. Your focus needs to be on moving into passionate new directions, but without trying to take control over things. So you have been working on something, you've earned something, you've moved yourself into a position of something looks like it's going to be a very positive outcome for you if you were to ride it all the way to the end, if you were to give it what it is deserved, the level of energy that you seem prepared to give it. You also are going to have to take some of that energy away from where you're focusing it in this situation and redirect it into something else. Now, we've been talking about that for a long time, so unless you are relatively new to being here with me at this channel, you've probably heard me say it a lot of times. There are opportunities coming up here in the near future that give you an opportunity to redirect some of this energy, and it also has the sense of lighting your soul on fire. That's what you have to focus on at this point, and the time is now. So as we were wrapping up the year, we were like, okay, what does January have coming? And one of the things that January has coming is some of that opportunity is headed your way. So the issue is you also are going to have potentially some distraction from the situation over here, and potentially even running into someone or something who resembles this behavior, who does information, or who does behavior similar to this. And all of a sudden, we see this King of Pentacles pop up because you have recently experienced something that feels like this. So you may be dealing with a narcissist and they may bounce right off of you, for example. I'm not saying that your person is a narcissist. I'm saying that in and out behavior is sometimes a narcissistic behavior, and that sometimes people will exhibit it. And if you run into someone else who also exhibits some of that behavior, you may make very short work of it. But be careful not to overdo it. You have the King of Wands in the reverse and the Emperor here, both cards of um potentially looking to overly control something. So don't hit a fly with a hammer. In this energy, you have the potential to hit a fly with a hammer, and it's like you do it on a glass table. You could create some other issues. So again, with the gentleness and the diplomacy, make sure that you're thinking things through as you're saying them. And I say that as the King of Swords falls out onto the table. The King of Swords talks about logic. It talks about thinking things through. It talks about making good sense of things. It talks about finding solutions and basically using all the information that's there. With the Tower in the reverse, you're going to find, and with the, yes, look at this. Okay, I'm just going to, I can't take them all in turn because they're all kind of coming out together, but let me see what I can do here. So with the Tower in reverse, you've got some resistance to something that even there's no point in being resistant to it. The issue is this thing that kind of comes in and tries to control you, and you make short work of it, but you may overly respond. You may respond with an outsized response because of your muscle that you've built dealing with this other situation. So you're moving toward happiness. Be careful, like I was saying before, that you do not hit a fly with a hammer, and especially not do so on sitting on a glass table. You're looking to move into some happiness. So you want to not destroy the overall situation. You have, with the Devil card and the Sun card, alignment toward that happiness, alignment toward abundance. This is really fabulous. So you've got to use your energy carefully. When we get into the extended and we talk a little bit about, what you can be doing to help with this situation here, I want you to take a good look at this, because this is the opportunity that you kind of already created. You're moving in this beautiful direction. Make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing. And it's just very important that you can sit with it and say, this is what makes the most sense to me. With the Tower here in the reverse, though, there is going to be a sense of resistance, and it's a sense of resistance toward some of the change that's coming, but there's also a feeling of avoidance. Like there's something that you may be avoiding that you need to make sure you come up with another solution for. Okay, so with the Ten of Cups here in the reverse, Ten of Cups in the reverse, we have kind of a, this one is, it's kind of, it reminds me of the Ten of Cups in the reverse up here, where there's when you get to something, you're not quite sure what to do with it. Make sure that you're opening your mind enough during the process of moving through something, such that it's not too surprising when you come to the end of it and you recognize you maybe have some more options, or maybe I feel like it's more options. I feel like you have more to work with than you might have expected to have at the end of some trail. At the end of, we know you've got cycles ending, and I feel like when you get to the ends of those cycles, you may have underestimated what you were going to do there. You may have had accumulated more resources, made more money, whatever it is. There's a cycle of abundance that's starting, and it seems like it starts and kind of takes you by surprise a little bit. So that's something to balance in and of itself, is that abundance that's coming your way, especially when you've been dealing with a situation that feels like extreme emotional lack. So I feel like that's something we probably need to look into, or at least keep in mind as we're moving into the future readings. So looking here again, we're going to look when we get into the extended, we're going to look a little bit more into kind of what drives this, although we've got a pretty decent idea of what is driving this person's tendency to disappear, especially at this time, with this current energy that they're in. But we're also going to take a look at what role you can play and what that can look like right now. So I look forward to seeing you in the extended. The link is down below. And if not, I will see you again in tomorrow's reading.